Hello friends, this is Molly with Soul School Spiritual Guidance and Healing, formerly Soul School Tarot and Astrology, and I've got something really kind of different for you guys today. I said a while ago on my channel, and this is just something I've been wanting to do for a long time, that I wanted to start incorporating different kinds of videos onto my channel other than just the astro forecast and my tarot readings. One of the topics that I want to be able to discuss with you guys is metaphysics, and metaphysics is something that has kind of been my jam for a really long time. I'll talk about the background of that. I'm going to talk about some kind of like pretty esoteric topics, but I want to talk about the scientific rationale behind some of these very esoteric topics. All right, so we're going to be talking about things like the auric field, quantum entanglement, which gets into discussion about the quote-unquote twin flame journey, which is something that if you guys follow YouTube tarot readers, I'm sure you've heard all about that. There is some mythology that I want to debunk based on the information that I've channeled from my guides, but we also want to talk about how it is kind of sort of a real thing, okay? And then finally we're going to be talking about psychic abilities and ascension. By ascension, I mean not just like our own personal path towards, utilizing our, how do I say this, our metaphysical capabilities as human beings, but the fact that on the planet right now, there seems to be a surge of people who are going through that process. All right, so we're going through it individually and collectively, and I just kind of want to talk about all of that today. If you guys are interested in a reading, check out the description box below, and you've got all the information down there that you're going to need. I also am going to have links to anything that I refer to in this talk with you guys today. All right, so part of what, actually I'm gonna have 3 links at least. All right, so thank you guys for being here. Thanks for hanging out. I'm just gonna do my very best. I have some notes here. I'm gonna do my very best to stay on topic and not ramble too much. I am gonna go ahead and play the Gemini moon card though right now. I have a Gemini moon, you guys, and so like that's like eternal shiny ball syndrome. All right, like an idea pops up, I'm gonna want to chase it down, but also Mercury is retrograde right now, so that kind of like exacerbates that aspect of me. But anyways, I have notes to try to keep me on topic, but this is not as difficult for me as I think I'm kind of like making it out to be in my mind. And we'll talk about that again in 1 minute when we get to the idea of metaphysics. Real quick, I just want to show you, like, I guess this is my projected fear that I'm like putting on to creating this video at this time, is I keep seeing, and it's almost like spirit keeps showing me this image of Doc Brown from Back to the Future. All right, that image where like Marty like burst in and Doc Brown's wearing this like crazy device on his head, and it's like, I don't even know what that thing is for. He's the guy, by the way, who invented like the flux capacitor, and he's the mad scientist trope, right? But when you see him on screen with that crazy hat on, that's the moment at which the audience is supposed to be like, oh, this dude's crazy. This dude's crazy. But then of course, like, the flux capacitor works, right? Like, he's not so crazy. What he's talking about is actual real science, and that's what I want to bring to our discussion about things like psychic abilities and twin flame journeys and auras and energy fields and all that good stuff. All right, so thank you guys for hanging out with me once again. What the heck is metaphysics? All right, metaphysics is a branch of philosophy. Background info that I said I would include is back in, let's see, it was from 2008 until 2011, so for 3 years I was a university instructor, and I taught the basically like history of philosophy and religion in the Western world. All right, So that's kind of where I get like all of my information about like biblical history, and as well as a lot of where I get my interest in metaphysics. Metaphysics is a branch of philosophy. I'm going to read this definition to you guys. It's just off of Google. It's a branch of philosophy that deals with the first principles of things. That's some Aristotle talk right there, including abstract concepts such as being, knowing, substance, cause, identity, time, and space. All right, so really, really abstract. It's basically the secondary definition for this. The way in which the word metaphysics is kind of demonized is it's abstract theory with no basis in reality. All right, so we're going to go ahead and use that term reality with quotation marks around it, because in order for any of this, the rest of this video to make sense to you, it's going to require that you accept that what we have been taught about the nature of reality in school, in churches, for those of you who ever attended, in the media, is not a complete explanation of what really exists and how it exists. All right, so if you believe that the powers that be are holding something back, then this is probably going to resonate with you. Okay, I was, by the way, a public educator for like 15 years. All right, and so I can tell you there's things they're not teaching you in school. All right, but metaphysics is one of the things that if you're at the college level, you will take a philosophy course, you're going to learn something about metaphysics. All right, time and space. Okay, do I do that now? Okay, real quick, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set forth some definitions for you, which is another very Aristotle thing to do. And I'm going to talk about the difference between space-time and time-space, okay? I want to make sure that I don't get them confused. Space-time is where we exist now. Time-space is what's on the other side of the veil, okay? So space-time is this reality in which we as consciousness are bound to physical bodies. Our observation of time is very, very linear, okay? So we have this concept of this thing called the past, the present, and then the future. And the way that we define that is like the past are things that we remember happening, the present is like what's happening right now, and the future are these things that have not yet happened, all right? Time, space, when you get to the other side of the veil, in other words, it's where we exist before and after this lifetime, and where there's plenty of consciousness that exists there now, all right? Time is much more fluid, all right? So when people talk about premonitions and prophecies, please understand everything that has ever or will ever exist is actually existing all at once, all right? So if you're still with me, you're still with me, all right? And the reason why I want to set that definition forth right now is because I'm going to talk about it later. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more, all right? But metaphysics, let's get into this discussion about metaphysics. I specifically want to talk about magnetism and the electromagnetic field, yours and mine, and then like the one that we're flying through on this giant ball in space that we know as the Earth, okay? This kind of all started last night when I was just kind of cooking my dinner, eating my dinner, cleaning my kitchen, and I was listening to this lecture that I found on YouTube. It just kind of popped up in my suggested, and it is called Mental Control of the Energy Field by this guy named Manly P. Hall, all right? Manly P. Hall is this mystic, esoteric dude from like the 1900s. And this is a lecture that he gave where he talks about what is the energy field and how it can actually be manipulated with our thoughts, all right? So you talk about creating your own reality, this is really exactly what he's talking about. It's mind-blowing. It was just really, really cool. I want to recommend it to everybody and their uncle. So the link to it is down below if you guys want to watch that. I just love his speaking voice, okay? As somebody who has given lectures, he has this really captivating speaking voice, but also he's into some like, that's a Doc Brown, okay? He's into some really esoteric stuff, and I recommend it. But what I really want to talk about are a couple things that he said about the auric field. What is our aura, all right? So he defines magnetism as this well-known scientific phenomenon. Like, we're not going to deny that magnets exist. And in fact, there's a lot of evidence out there that magnetism exists in ways that just they're kind of mind-blowing, to tell you the truth. And one of the ways in which that exists is he talks about how we each have our own electromagnetic field, all right? Now, I've said this in my channel before, that the center of that electromagnetic field is your heart. And that's why I believe that unblocking, freeing up the heart chakra is really the key to being able to utilize the law of attraction, being able to create your own reality. It's because you have the ability to attract things into your own electromagnetic field. But since the electromagnetic field originates in the human heart, like we can't really do that if we got a blocked heart chakra, okay? So I've talked about that on my channel before. But he talks about magnetism as not just this abstract concept like gravity, okay? Like, draw a picture of gravity. I'll wait. You can't, right? You can't really draw a picture of magnetism either, but there are people who can sense it and see it, okay? In fact, there was, is it synesthesia? I don't want to say it wrong. Hold on just a second. I have to. Can you just like, not tonight. I'm trying to tell my laptop I don't want these updates right now, okay? Yes, synesthesia is a neurological condition in which information meant to stimulate one of your senses stimulates several of your senses, okay? That's a psychic ability, all right? And what I'm talking about specifically here is people who can see the color of like your voice or the color of an aura. I knew this girl once who told me that my voice is this really beautiful lilac color, which, like, I don't know, I'm kind of proud of that. I think that's really cool. Especially since I'm loud and I have a raspy voice. I was like, oh, I wouldn't have gone with lilac, but I like it. But nonetheless, we have these electromagnetic fields and we have the ability to sense them, sometimes through color, in ways that you don't learn about in school, okay? But what he's saying about magnetism and about our electromagnetic field is that it's fluid, all right? It's not just this abstract, you know, like now they're showing me like static electricity, you know, if you were a kid and you would like slide your feet around on the carpet and then, you know, get just close enough to something to let it shock you. It's not this, it's an abstract concept because we can't draw a picture of it, right? But what he's saying is it's this actual fluid substance that exists and that surrounds us. And so that is what our aura is. That's what our energetic body is. And so people who can read auras, people who can see chakras, I actually have learned a method that I can see people's chakras, but it's like looking down from the crown. Like, imagine somebody's chakras all stacked up in a pile. I can see them and tell them what's leaking and what is blocked and interesting stuff like that. And it's because certain vibrational levels are associated with certain colors, all right? But I feel like I'm getting off on a tangent and Spirit's like yanking me back into my focus, all right? Electromagnetism, our auric fields, all right? So that's a real thing. My aura, your aura, when somebody's in a bad mood, you can feel that when they walk into the room. What we call empaths are people who have a heightened attunement to other people's electromagnetic field. You guys, I'm gonna pause and reposition my fan real quick. Pardon me getting all sweaty right now. It rained for like 5 minutes today and it's just been humid as all get out all day long. I'll be right back. Okay, so you have an auric field. I have an auric field. Some people can see them. Some people don't know how to tap into that ability, okay? My argument is that we're all psychic, but some of us are just more open to that. And then once you are kind of open-minded to that, being able to cultivate that ability. All right, Spirit's coming in to be like, Molly, some people are just psychic, more psychic than others, all right? And so I always try to say that, like, I'm not really special in my ability to channel messages. I think that everybody has the ability to do that, but it is something that I have worked on cultivating throughout the last several years, and so that's kind of why it's more active in me. Nonetheless, this is also, by the way, really good scientific justification for energy healing. Okay? Reiki. Sekhem, which is a different type of energy healing, but there's many types of energy healing, and there's scientific validation for why that is so, because certain people have the ability to command their own energetic field in a way that can affect the energetic fields of other people. All right, so add that to the list of esoteric things that we're providing scientific justification for is energy healing, all right? Here's what he said that really got me, and the reason why I felt like this is really important is because last night I posted this video called Energetically Bound but Physically Separated, and there's a link to that also in the description box below. The third link, by the way, that I wanted to share with you guys is, I was going to apologize if I seem extra spacey, because I did this like crazy guided meditation that really activated my crown chakra, and actually all of my chakras. So that is linked to down below, but I'm just warning you guys. Don't do it if you don't want to become more psychic when you wake up, all right? That's my third link that I wanted to share with you guys. So let's get back into this thing that Manly P. Hall said in his lecture that really blew my mind. It's about when two people come together and they feel an attraction to one another that they just cannot explain. Obviously, there's chemical attraction, which comes along with just like being people of different sexes that are emitting different hormones, right? There's all sorts of weird evolutionary types of attraction, okay? In fact, I read a book on evolutionary biology once, and it said that the way that our attraction systems have evolved is in order to increase the chances of genetic diversity in our offspring, right? So that's why you typically are not attracted to like your brother or your cousin, right? It's just because ideally our offspring should have genetic diversity, and so we tend, that's why quote unquote opposites attract, right? So there's that kind of attraction, like physical attraction, and then there's this energetic attraction that anybody who considers themselves on the quote-unquote twin flame journey feels like they've definitely experienced, okay? Or if you meet somebody and you're like, we're so different, why do I feel so compelled towards this person? It's because your magnetic fields, your what's the word that I was using? Your electromagnetic fields are in alignment with one another, okay? Because he talked about how, like, if you have two magnets that are properly magnetized, they can actually carry a charge through them. Like a charge can flow through both of them together, right? But if you have two that are polarized oppositely, they literally like repel one another. And what happens is that their electric charge gets turned back on themselves, okay? So sometimes you meet somebody and that's all that happens. Your own energetic field just gets turned back on you. That's what mirroring is about. This just came in and I didn't realize it. When you meet somebody and you're like, oh my God, I hate that person, it's because they're reflecting something that you probably don't like very much about yourself back on you. All right, that's what mirroring is all about. Wow. This is like a cooler topic than I realized it was when I sat down to do this video. So thanks to my guides for channeling that to me, all right? But sometimes you meet people that like your energetic field and their energetic field are just like made for each other, right? They're in vibration, they're in alignment with one another. There is this game that I used to play back in my preteen years, like at slumber parties and stuff like that. And God, I can't even think of the name of it. So if you were like a teenage girl in the early 1990s, you might resonate with this. But it's like you play it with like best friends, and it's kind of a test of like how well you know each other. And each of you, it's like they give you multiple choice questions, and you have this little device, it's magnetic, right? Electromagnetic device that has like A, B, C, and D. And you hold up, like if your answer to the question is B, you hold B up and you touch it to the other person's device. And if you guys have the same answer to that question, it bleeps. Like it would be like, right? That's always the image that I see when I talk about coming into physical contact with somebody that we are energetically in alignment with, okay? So here's what's crazy about that and how we end up getting such a thing as being energetically connected but physically separated, all right? We're getting into quantum mechanics now, quantum physics, all right? There's a phrase that's kind of used in the psychic community. Quantum Queen is a reader that talks about this a lot. She also has some really interesting theories about like chemical attractions and like where chemicals come from in our body and how they drive our behaviors in certain ways. So if you guys are into that, definitely check her out, Jocelyn, the Quantum Queen. She talks a lot about quantum entanglement. And this is basically described by Albert Einstein as spooky action at a distance, all right? So I'm going to try here in my mouth. Okay. I'm going to try to describe this in the best way I can. Albert Einstein famously said that quantum mechanics should allow two objects to affect each other's behavior instantly across vast distances. And this is something that he dubbed spooky action at a distance. I don't have a subscription to this website, so if I click on it, it's not going to let me finish reading the article. But long after he died, people have done experiments where they like do certain radiation on these like two particles that are attached to one another, right? There's these two particles and they're together, and then you can take one particle and ship it off to India and then keep the other one here. And if you expose this particle to certain forms of radiation, the other one is going to respond in the same way. Okay, so he called it spooky action at a distance because, I mean, that is kind of spooky, especially in Einstein's time, right? So there's some quantum mechanics for you, some quantum physics. And that is something that happens with people, okay? That's something that happens with people. You come into contact with somebody and you exchange enough energy with them that no matter how much time and distance you guys are separated from, what's going on in one person's life is going to affect the other. He talks about this happening with the mother-child relationship, which, hand to God, I can tell you is very, very real. This is the longest I have ever been away from my son because I moved out of country. And I can tell when he's going through something and kind of wishes he could talk to me. I can tell. And it's always been that way, even when we just lived across town from one another. But now that we live in like two separate countries, you guys, this humidity is so real. I'm going to try not to let it be a distractor. It's something that's very, very, very real. The fact that two people, and I mean, if you think about that, like, he grew in my belly for 9 months, okay? So even if I hadn't spent my, all of my 20s like raising him on my own, Like that is a quantum entanglement. All right, that is a coming together of two auric fields that no matter how far apart we are still going to have that impact on one another. Honestly, he can tell when I'm upset too. I don't think he calls it that, but every now and then he'll just kind of reach out to me and be like, I miss you, Mom. I love you, Mom. And I'm like, how'd you know I was just having a day? And it's crazy, but it works. It works. It can happen with people who did not give birth to one another as well, okay? So this is how I kind of want to bridge into the concept of twin flames, all right? Twin flame journey is something that has been highly mythologized in the spiritual community, and it is honestly, in my mind, really described as something very, very toxic, all right? Which is why I hesitate to bring it up, because some people are going to hear me talk about twin flame and they're going to project on that all of the toxicity that they've learned. Like basically the dominant paradigm about twin flames, or whatever you want to call two people who are kind of meant to be together, is really, it's a very highly codependent dynamic, and codependence is the exact opposite of what my guides have told me this twin flame journey is all about, all right? So the messages that I've gotten from my guides is that sometimes two people are meant to come into one another's life and trigger certain alchemical changes, like healing, departure from codependence, sometimes like psychic activations, all right? And that's a soul contract that was created before we came into this lifetime. By the way, before we came into this lifetime, we existed in time-space. Not in space-time, but we existed in time-space. And we didn't have these physical bodies, but we definitely had our electromagnetic fields. We were like clouds of magnetism traveling through time-space, right? So when I channel messages from spirit, that's where it's coming from, all right? Because data, information, images, memories, all sorts of things can actually be transmitted through these electromagnetic fields, okay? That's less scientifically backed up and more coming from like my personal experience, all right? So nonetheless, the messages that I've gotten about the twin flame journey are that twin flame union cannot happen until both people have healed their codependence. That's just facts. That's just facts, okay? I mean, it's facts that I've gotten from my guides, all right? And so a lot of times I do readings for people and they ask like, well, when will I come into union with my twin flame? And it's like when you don't need to, because you've healed your codependence. You can be happy on your own and not need another person to make you whole, okay? That's the thing that I hate about twin flame mythology, is that like, oh, that's the other half of my soul. That's a bunch of bullshit, okay? Pardon. I'm trying not to curse because I want to keep it a little legit and then also not lose my monetization on this, okay? So yeah, that's, if you guys have a question about, or if you're like, why was I separated from this person that I know I'm supposed to be with for the rest of my life? Because you needed it. You were in a place where your perspective is, I need this person for the rest of my life, rather than I think that I can grow with and exist simultaneously with this person for the rest of my life and just be my true authentic self, okay? Independent coexistence. I think that comes from Queen Cup Tarot. Or is it the Woke Therapist? I don't know. It's another tarot reader that talks about we're healing codependence, which has been the norm in our society and mainstream society for generations, and replacing it with independent coexistence. I am who I am. I have control over my energy field. You have control over yours. My happiness is not dependent on anybody but myself, and that's the same for the partner too, okay? So if you are wondering what it takes to get into union with your person, or why you were with your person and now you've been separated, it's because there's some sort of codependence that needs to be healed, all right? That's the message that Spirit has been like I'm seeing this scene where like I'm sitting in a movie theater and there's somebody behind me like throwing popcorn at my head, and it's like I'm just trying to focus on the movie, but this popcorn being thrown at my head is this message that that Spirit wants me to get out to you guys about healing codependence. All right, now don't take that personally. Don't get defensive when we talk about codependence. Y'all, I'm codependent. I have codependent tendencies. Why? Because I was raised by people who inherited them from their families, which inherited them from their families, and on and on and on and on and on. Because like I said, it has been the norm for generations. All right? So if you're into this idea of ascension and new earth energy, this is the way, and in fact, this is the collective consciousness, the social memory complex that I was in contact with at the end of 2020, and that I'm kind of getting prepared to like come back into contact with, is about this, they're the guardians of the earth. It's not even the earth, it's kind of like the atmosphere's like ascension grid. And if you're into theories of new earth and birthing like a new utopian type of like way of being on earth, please understand one of the first things we need to fix is our codependent habits and our codependent patterns when it comes to relationships. Because, I mean, look at society, look at media, look at, you guys, oh my God, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, it's kind of a tangent. This TikTok trend of like pranking your significant other and then like video recording it and putting it on TikTok to get followers, you guys, that's disgusting to me. Like, people do that. But there's a lot of things that, especially if social media is creating for you a model of what your relationship should be like, get off of social media. You have to write your own script when it comes to that, because a lot of us are codependent on society. Codependent on approval and validation, not just from a romantic partner, but from family, friends, coworkers, the media, society at large. Okay, so healing codependency and replacing it with independent coexistence is a big part of what the ascension of Earth is all about, okay? We're gonna come full circle here because ascension is the last thing on my list right now. Why is it that you probably, and I, and really the entire collective on Earth right now seems to be going through this, it's a collective ascension, right? People are getting more psychic. People are getting more into the esoteric, getting into manifestation and intention setting and even like witchcraft and stuff like that, all right? And it's just, there's this increase in a belief in metaphysics, that there is something beyond what we have been told is the quote unquote reality, like the officially sanctioned version of reality. Something is on the other side of the veil. The fact that the veil exists and that there's something on the other side of it is something a lot of people are waking up to. And in fact, in that reading that I did last night, I think I might have talked about it a little more in the extended, but it's basically like one of these two people in this union is really working on dismantling their matrix. And what I mean by that is the version of reality that they've always believed in or adhered to, and understanding that there is something beyond that, okay? So, a lot of people are going through that awakening, ascension, and whatnot, all right? Just saw 33:33 on the clock right there. So I am gonna wrap it up pretty soon, but this is important, you guys. The reason why we're doing that is because of where our planet is in space at this time, okay? Something they did teach you in school, hopefully, is that Earth is traveling around the sun, all right? But we don't realize is the sun is also traveling around the Milky Way galaxy very, very slowly. And that the Milky Way galaxy is kind of like propelling, like it's moving through space as well, right? And Manly P. Hall talks about it when he talks about magnetism in this lecture. In the very beginning parts, he talks about how there's magnetism that comes from the sun. There's magnetism that comes from the sun's light that are reflected off of the face of the moon. And there's magnetism that comes from all over the place. You guys, what was that thing that I read in the news today? It was like some sort of like plasma discharge or something like that scientists observed. It's like is it a quasar? I don't know. But it's a space phenomenon, right? And we have to understand that magnetism comes from these like things all over the galaxy, right? And so it's almost like you and I know that if the Earth got a little closer to the sun, we would all burn up. Like we would not be able to, like life would not exist on Earth. If we were a little further away from the sun, everything would freeze, and once again, we would not be able to exist on Earth, okay? So we know that our relative location in space has an effect on how we live our lives, okay? So, and this is not just science, but this is definitely a very strong channeled message that's coming through, is that the way in which just the part of the universe, the part of the galaxy that our entire solar system is kind of entering at this point in time is highly magnetized. Is one in which I've been calling it the thinning of the veil. But basically what's happening is our electromagnetic fields, our ability to sense electromagnetic fields and electromagnetism in others is becoming heightened because electromagnetism is becoming heightened, okay? So there is scientific justification for why all of Earth is going through this vast awakening right now. And there have been prophecies about it throughout time because we were always at this time meant to be moving through this particular part of the galaxy. Okay? So, I think I did it. Did we do it? All right, high five. All right, thank you guys. Thank you, viewers. Drop some comments below. Don't let me just be sitting here talking to the screen all by myself. I want to engage in conversation with you guys. What do you think about this? If you feel like it, go watch the videos that I've linked to below. Let me know, did you guys get like your crown and third eye blown way the freak open by that guided meditation? Check it out and come back and let me know. I would absolutely love that. But most of all, thank you for sitting here with me for almost 40 minutes while I talk to you like Doc Brown about metaphysics and energy fields and twin flames and everything else. If you guys like it, let me know, because I'm feeling like I want to bring some more content like this to the channel in the near future. But this is where I leave you guys. Thank you so much. Sending you lots and lots of love and light and just really good electromagnetic juju. All right, take care, and I'll see you guys back on my channel again soon.